Hello and welcome. My name is Sergio. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through ZbxWiz Basics, an HTTL tool designed to simplify your workflow in working with data in Zabbix. In other words, ZbxWiz is a tool which can assist you in retrieving, processing, and pushing data from and into Zabbix through the Zabbix API, without the need of writing complex scripts. By the end of this video, you'll have a decent understanding of how ZbxWiz works and how it can save you time and reduce errors in your daily tasks. So let's dive in and see how it works. First, what you can see here is the splash window of ZbxWiz, which you're gonna see only one time, the first time when you use the application. And I'm highlighting here that ZbxWiz is powerful but also dangerous because you can ruin stuff inside Zabbix, so use it with very much care. Use it carefully, and I personally do not take any responsibility about the way you're gonna use it. So, because I feel brave today, I'm just gonna choose the red pill and dive into the matrix. So, for the purpose of this demo, I have prepared the locally running Zabbix instance, which we will access it here just to have it at hand. Okay. And I have also created a CSV file where I put some host data which we're gonna onboard in Zabbix. For the purpose of this demo, I have prepared the locally running Zabbix instance, which we can see here. And the use case that I will explore involves onboarding some new devices using the ZbxWiz, create the missing host groups if there are any, and in the end validate that operations have been successful. For this purpose, I have created a CSV file with some dummy data. So let's load this file. But first, let's take a look at the interface. You will notice here on the bottom, the interface allows you to create multiple sheets and load different data sets in each of it. On the top menu, we see an environment menu where we can create new ones, save or load pre-saved ones. In data, we'll use this menu to import or export the data. In the table operations, we can use it only when we have an active data set. In the Zabbix ops, we use it to pull or push data from Zabbix. Good. So as I said before, we're going to use as an input a CSV file. Let's load this file. Here it is. We're going to load it. We get an error which refers actually to the last row in the CSV file, which is empty. We see it here. It has no data, and I'm also going to delete it. I delete it by clicking on the index button, and then from this context menu, I'm just going to select delete row. Now you see here we have in total 10 hosts. We have a device name, we have an IP, device type, and a location. Now, when creating the hosts in Zabbix, we must provide at least one host group to which they must belong, and the templates are a template is optional, but we're gonna configure it with a template as well. So what we need when using the API, what we need to know when we create the host, we need to know the group ID of the host group which we want to associate with the host. Now, one way would be just to go here in Zabbix to data collection, templates, and to host groups, and search for the host group and the group ID and so on. But one more efficient way would be just to use ZbxWiz to retrieve all the host groups in the Zabbix API, and then using a lookup function we can extract the group ID and and use it here. So for this, we're gonna create a new sheet. I'm just gonna delete all these ones. I'm gonna create a new sheet, and we're gonna use the import from ZbX functionality. Now, what you see in this window, we have three fields. We have the resource, we have the request templates, and then we have the request body. And here downstairs we have a preview. I'll get to them soon, but before proceeding with this, I want to talk to you about another important part. It's the configuration needed. It's configuring the ZbxWiz with the API configuration, so it can connect. It can actually connect to the ZbX API, right? So what I just did, you see here on the top right, we have this ZbX icon. Currently is pale red. Why it's pale red? Because the application cannot has tried to perform a test connection to ZbX and it failed. Now why it failed? Because you see here there is a typo which I actually just introduced to showcase this. I corrected. Now I'm saving the configuration. Now you see that the icon is bright red, which means that the test connection which was just executed was successful. Another very important thing is that when you use this application as a web app from the browser, basically, one problem which will occur would be the you'll get course error. That is, if you want to find out more about course, just Google it. Cross-origin resource sharing. It's a way of the browser to protect protect the user from malicious code being run inside websites. And we need to disable this protection mechanism, because otherwise it will just not work. So I'm in order to do this in my browser, I'm using Firefox. I installed an extension. It's called, I don't know how it's called. It's called Allow Course, right? There are similar extensions for Chrome and Microsoft Edge and so on. So just use whatever you like. And without this being enabled, let's go here and disable it. Save config. Okay, in my situation it worked. Why? Because both the both the application and the ZbX installation are running on the same host, on local host. But for example, if you run this locally, if you run the ZbxWiz locally, but of course your ZbX installation is somewhere else, this will be different, right? Okay. So very important. Install an allow course extension, so you can bypass this protection mechanism. Okay, so getting back to what we're just about to do, we want now to import the host groups, right, from ZbX. Now what you see here, we see the resource. The resource means what the ZbX object type which we want to retrieve. Now you will notice that there are not too many, so we have only 6 actually. In ZbX there are much more, but because this application is still in beta, you see here only the ones which I used so far, but hopefully by the time you start using it, all of the objects will be here in the latest version, of course. So let's retrieve the host groups. Now you'll notice another small icon. This is the question mark, with the button with the question mark. Clicking on it will take us directly to the documentation of the method which we want to execute. So in this case, we'll perform an host group get. The way the request looks like, we can see here an example. All right, at the bottom level, at the top level, we see the JSON RPC version, the method, and an ID, and then the parameters. Now in the request body here, we actually are gonna create only this part, the parameters, because the rest of them are automatically generated by the application on execution time. Okay, so what we want now, in this case, we want to retrieve all the host groups, and for this we don't need to put anything in the parameters, and we're just gonna send an empty object as parameter. So there it is. Now we have all the host groups here. You see the group ID, the name, the flags, the UUID, and so on. We actually are going to use only the first two columns. Now, getting back to the sheet with the hosts, by the way, just for you to know, the sheets can be moved around, so reordered. Why it's not working? Sheet 3. Okay, now it worked. You can move them around. You can also rename them. So, for example, here we can just rename it to hosts. This one we're gonna rename it to groups. Okay, we go to hosts, and now let's find out which is the host ID, which is the group ID for each of these locations. For this, by the way, first I would like to introduce you in the interface, to talk to you, to show you around a little bit. So we see a top menu where we have various menus for different tasks. In the environment, you can actually save the active data set, so save the sheets which you just created with their data inside. You can just save them. You provide here a file name and then click OK, and it will save it in JSON format. Later on, this allows you to have multiple projects running in parallel. You save this one, you create a new one, load the data, save that one, load what was saved before, and so on. So like you would normally work with an Excel file, right? Then we have the data menu. Inside the data menu, we have the import and export. So you can export, you can import from CSV, Excel, ZbxWiz, and JavaScript, and export in CSV and JSON. Actually, the CSV importing from Excel is still not working, but I'm working on it, and hopefully will be ready soon. Same for an export to Excel. Okay, then we have the table ops. The table ops are a few operations which you can execute on a table. So you can add new rows. How many rows do you want to add? Let's say we want to add 2. Okay, and now we see 2 new empty rows. For whatever reason you might need them. Now, because we don't need them, I'm just gonna select them and click on del cell. So delete selected. This is one way to delete them. Another way to delete them would be like click on the index button, on the row index button, and select the delete row, and click on the delete row action. Then what else we have here? Reordered columns. So if I don't like the column ordering, I can just go here and I can move them around like this. Save. Okay. And another option, it would be to copy to new sheet, copy data to new sheet, but we're not going to explore this one at this just now. And in ZbxOps, you have the access to the ZbX operations, so you can pull or push data. Now, the main difference between pulling data from ZbX and importing data from ZbX is that when you import data from ZbX, new records in the table will be created. Actually, if you have some data here and you're going to run an import, it will empty first the data and only then empty the table and then import the new data inside. While the pull is actually being executed against each row, and the data which is being retrieved from ZbX will be associated with the row itself. We're going to see how this is working a little bit later. Okay, so we said we want to find out, oh yeah, not ready yet with the interface. So you see here we have columns like we would expect. The columns have a number, column number, it starts from 0. We have column names, device name, location, device type, IP, and the rest of them are automatically generated just for the sake of having a column name. And why these are important? Because then we have this very, very powerful thing in ZbX. We can actually process data on the column, on the whole column. processing meaning generating new stuff. So we're gonna write here a JavaScript function, and the output of JavaScript, of this JavaScript function will be executed against each of the rows, and its output will be inserted into the cell. So let's just create a new thing. So I'm gonna put here a new thing, just a text. That's it. So what I put here is a string. This string will be applied to all the cells on this column. But of course we can do, when you want to do that, don't forget to put the string between quotes. Now let's do some more, a little bit more complicated stuff. So I would like to concatenate cell 0 with cell 1. So I'm gonna do like this, $0 plus, I'm just gonna put a minus between them, $1, sorry, plus 1. Okay, there it is. So let me tell you a little bit what I did here. With dollar and then a number afterwards, I'm referencing the cell on that index, right? So $0 represents the cell at in the first column, then $1 the second one, and so forth and so on, right? Another way to address the cells is by using their name. So in order to do this, I prefix the field name with the underscore, and I'm doing this underscore IP, and voila. And then I apply it. What you see here is a preview of the function output, of the code output, which is applied only for the first visible row. One important thing to know is these transformations are applied only on the visible rows. Why I'm saying this? Because, for example, because we also have the possibility to filter. So filtering means displaying only certain records. So let's say I'm filtering for router, and I'm going to use the and I'm going to apply a transformation on this column, right? Now if I remove the filter, I see that this has been applied only on was previously filtered. Okay, we don't need this, we can delete it. So as you can see, we can edit, we can also manually edit the cells. We just double click on the cell, do whatever you want there, and at the end either press Ctrl Enter or just click somewhere else. Okay, another important object which you can use in this in the transformation is the self. So for example, I just want to prefix it with something. This is the self, and this one references to the current column where I'm to the value in the current column where I'm applying the transformation. So let's say I just want to add the prefix plus self, and voila. Now these are simple things. These are basically I can let's do something more complicated. We have as said before, we have the possibility to look up data in a different sheet. So for this we're going to use the special object WS, and then the sheet name. Groups is the name of the sheet, we can see here, and then lookup function. Lookup, and the first parameter of the lookup is the subject. So what exactly I'm searching for. So in this case, I'm searching for the location, $1, right? I'm searching for the location, which is in column 1. Where I'm searching for it, I'm searching in the name, right? So I'm searching by name in the groups table. And the third parameter is the column which I want to be returned. We want the group ID column. By the way, I can pass it here either by the name of the column or by the index. So let's just mix them. Apply. So now we see for some of them it managed to retrieve the group ID. For some others we have a null result. Why we have a null result? Because actually they don't exist. So let's filter, contains null, and what we can do now, we can actually create these ones. We can create them on the fly at this very moment. For this, we're gonna do a push. Now, the push dialog, the first thing which pops into our eyes is this thing, no row selected. The push and pull are always executed against selected rows. Right, it's a way to limit the damage or to control what you're actually doing. Right. So, what we want now, we want to create a new host group. We go to host group, let's go to the help, and we want to create. Right, we go to help and host group create. This one is looking very easy. It's a very simple request. We put it here, and in this the request body, actually what we're composing here is a template. So this means I can use variables here as well. The whole thing is being treated inside the ZbX API, inside the ZbX app, inside ZbxWiz as a JavaScript template literal. So in case you're not familiar with it, I strongly suggest you read more about it. Basically, we can put here variables. So the way to insert the variable is like dollar and then curly brackets, and inside the variable name which we want to use. And again, this is being executed in the context of each row. So what we see here is a preview for this template being parsed in the context of the first row. Okay, so as we used before in the transformations, we can use the column number $0. Okay, but in my case, in our situation, I want to use the location. I want to create a location name underscore location. Okay, much better. So 1 2 3 1 2 2. Yeah, we have 6 records, and we see these are duplicates. What's going to happen when I'm going to run this request, it will basically try to create we're going to have 6 requests, but basically 2 of them will create the host groups and the other ones are going to fail. Because why? Because duplicate group name, but we don't care, because ZbX has a protection mechanism against creating host groups with the same name. So let's execute it. We execute it now, and hopefully it's been created. Now the way to find out the result of the last executed request, we can click on the row index button, we go on row info, and here we can see all the data which is being associated with the row. Now the important part is this one. We have the data and data CSV. What we have here is the original data which was imported. This never changes. So for example, if why it's important is because, for example, I'm running some transformation here, right, and it's a bad one. I applied it, so I ruined the whole field, but I need this data. The way to retrieve this data is like this: CSV device name, and voila, I can put it back now. Getting back to the push, what we were talking about. Yeah, about the success of the last operation. So row info, and now I can see here what was the result of it. This is what we received from ZbX, and we can see that the group has been created. Now let's check another one. We're gonna go here, row info, and in this situation we get an error. Why? Because it tried to create a group with the name which was already defined. So the protection mechanism worked perfectly. Now let's refresh this table, so it contains also the newly created groups. I'm just going to re-import the data, import from ZbX, host group, execute, and voila. And now we can run again this lookup function, and now everything is there. is correctly has been, the host group ID has been identified, and we are almost ready to go. Now, one more thing which I want to do, I want to put each host in a host group by the device type. So the device type, you see it here, it's in column number 2, the third column actually, number 2. And let's see if I have created these host groups already. Yeah, looks like I did. So now we are ready. Now we are ready to create, to onboard the host. For this, we're going to use again the push function and host create, and let's compose the request. We're going to go again to the ZbxWiz documentation to start from an example. It's always easier to use examples. Right. The host will be column 0. No row selected, just select them, column 0. The interface will be the IP. I'm just going to do it like this. IP, I'm going to use the field name. IP. Okay. Now about the groups. We will assign each host to 2 groups, one for the location, the other one for the group ID, for the device type. That is column 4 and column 5. Column 5. Okay. And let's add some tags. I'm just going to do created by ZbxWiz. Okay. And as for the templates, yeah, I haven't thought too much about it, but I would say let's assign the selection templates. We're going to assign the ICMP template, which is ICMP ping, and the template ID is ICMP ping. I don't know what's the template ID, but again, let's use the ZbxWiz to retrieve all the templates. Just going to close this one. From Zabbix, resource templates, retrieve them. Okay, and we're gonna filter for ICMP, and that's it. And the template ID is this one. Oops, push templates is this one. Okay, we don't configure any macros at this point, and yeah, that's it. Should do the job. No, so what we see here, we see a red background, which means that we have an error. We have an error in our request, a JSON error, by the way. Let's try to identify it. Interfaces, this one looks good. Groups, this one looks good. Tags looks good. Templates. So, what's his problem? One way to find out more about, yeah, template ID, you see, here we have a small problem. Oh, okay. So fixed it now. Okay, so we want to create a host. By the way, about the request templates, what does it mean? It means that, you know, we're gonna definitely use this request quite a few times. Some of them we know we're gonna reuse them in the future, if not exactly the way they are, at least variations of them. So in order to not to keep writing all this stuff all the time, we can just save it locally. So I'm just gonna save it here, give it a name, so like create host. Okay, and later on, you see it here, I can use it. I can select it, and here it is. I have it here. Okay, so I think we're ready to run to run our request to create the hosts. And again, as mentioned before, this request is going to be executed only against the selected rows. Now I selected all of them, and let's press execute. We see here this warning because, of course, pushing data to Zabbix is dangerous, especially when you do it with an automated tool. You can do a lot of damage. So just make sure each time that you know what you're doing. I personally take no responsibility about the way you use the tool, and again, it's your job. Confirm, and hopefully the hosts have been created. Let's go here and data collection hosts, and we're gonna search for created by. No, we can find out the result of the last execution of the last API request by checking the request. So it looks like the request was wrongly was wrong. Yeah. So why it was wrong? Because I can see here now that you see the group ID has not been actually interpolated because I used the 5 instead of $1. Yeah, very similar. So now it's much better. I execute again, confirm, row info, and method not found. Okay, another error from my side. Push, yeah, I forgot to select the resource. Host, create, and hopefully now we're ready to go on the third try. It's a good sign, it moves slower. Alright, so now we see the result of the last request. We have here the host ID. If I want to put inside this table the created host ID, I can do it like this, like last response. I'm extracting the data, last response, that result, host IDs 0. Okay. Yeah, so that was it. I hope you managed to understand what ZbxWiz does, and hopefully also managed to understand how this could help you in your daily operations. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write in the comments, contact me over the email, also on the GitHub page that of the project. You can also feedback.